What is going on, people? Today I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the highlights regarding a little bit of a war that we got with the Alliance GGER, and this spanned around 2 hours or so, so I'm going to try to narrow it down to about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll show you some of the highlights, but essentially it all started where we started to gang up on a couple of their bases and a couple of their stragglers, and then more and more just keep coming. And eventually one of their big boys really came to play, and we had a little bit of a harder time with him. But as you can tell, there was a couple of bases here, and the original plan was for us to take out the smaller guys first, and then once they were out of the picture, we would focus on their main guy. But of course, as we kept trying to do that, they kept getting reinforcements, they kept getting more people porting in, and it became an all-out battle, essentially. More of us came, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the highlights of that, and also try to tell you what exactly was going through my mind when things happened. A couple of do's and don'ts that I have noticed that a lot of people like to do when they're out in the battlefield. The number one thing, as I have mentioned before in another video, is that instead of having all 5 of your units out in the battlefield, honestly, you should only focus on one unit, and for me, it's these mediums right here, because not only are they really powerful, they can take a punch, but they heal so fast. So even if you get, if you take a lot of damage, you can just back up, and in about 20 seconds, they're back up to full health. So these mediums right here, I absolutely love them. What's funny is that I started taking them up just by sheer chance of what I actually pulled, and they quickly became my strongest troops, and I just kept kind of focusing on that. And honestly, I am so glad that it wasn't anything else, because I am loving these mediums. By far my favorite troop in the game at the moment, and it's mainly just because they're so versatile. And yes, they're weak to heavies, but I've gone up one-on-one versus other heavies, and it's, even if they're around the same power as mine, it usually comes out to be around the draw. So these are very, very powerful tank. Like I said, they have a lot of damage, they can take a punch, and they heal and get back into the fray so quick. So I'm really glad that I took this up first. Now what I'm honestly working on is my siege, just so I can have my my base defense be much better. And then after that, we'll just focus on getting up my building some more. But like I mentioned before, the original plan here was to take out their smaller guys first, and as you can tell, they have reinforcements coming from all sorts of sides. But because a lot of them don't just focus on one troop, and they have like 2 or 3 coming at us at the same time, we just shred through them. And here comes another one here. Now this one is that one's fairly strong, because you can tell he has 4 heavies. But again, when you compare it to my mediums, they stand no chance. And look at my mediums, man. They're taking a beating, but they're staying in the fight. Obviously the officers do help, the ones that I have. I'm currently using Guardian of Truth and Sergeant Spanner, which I think is probably the best duo for a medium or even heavies, super heavies, etc. They are very good, especially to try and stay in the fight. And look at this, I pretty much tanked this base for well over a minute, and he eventually poured it out. He gave up. So as you can tell, we're going ahead and we're clearing things out. Now this next target was already weakened, and we had a good 5 or 6 of us that was committed to that. But look at this, they have more and more reinforcements coming. Now I don't understand what some of these guys are trying to do, because they come in and then they just get blasted out like immediately. So I don't really know if they knew exactly what they were doing. But of course, Buyan, which is their biggest person, and the one that we had the most issue with, is also trying to flank us from the left side. So I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing that they're having issues with him. So what I decided to do is I decided to pull back, so that way I can go ahead and heal a little bit. And then what I decided to do is I want to go ahead and, first of all, I'm going to help clear this guy up here. Because he just wanted to be right in the middle of everything. So I found that kind of funny. And then I decided, okay, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go and try to stay on the left hand side between the bases. because that's where the fire is coming from, especially from Buyan. So I wanted to make sure that I was kind of like a deterrent for him. That way everybody else didn't have an issue with him. So as soon as he saw that I was standing in the way, he retreated. And even if he tried to fight back right there, my mediums would take out those heavies. Or those super heavies. So at this point, I'm gonna fire at the base, but I'm also being mindful to see if he sends troops. And then once he does, I'm gonna go ahead and just redirect my fire towards them. And that way, I'm providing my firepower, but also I'm providing cover. So I was kind of like fulfilling two roles at once. So once we went ahead and finished this guy out, we then tried to maybe see if we can start chipping away at Buyan. But the issue with him and his base is that he just does so much damage. And as you can tell right there, look, he moved back a bit because he realized, okay, I'm not going to be able to actually do much as far as this positioning. So he was actually really smart, and you would think, why would he move back? But he moved back, that way he can actually start shooting at the other base that was there, and he would have the cover of being able to garrison his troops right away. That way he can keep them safe. So it was a very smart play on his part. And at this point, I just wanted to go ahead and provide some cover for this base, because his troops are very, very strong. So I wanted to go ahead and at least get them garrisoned, because if they get garrisoned, yes, we're going to have harder time taking down his base, but we're going to be able to at least save the base that he was aiming for. So now we're just kind of sitting around and seeing what we can do. But look how fast he's taking out those super heavies, and that's why we had a lot of issues with this base, is because, first of all, he knows what he's doing. If you're going to be focusing on one troop like he is right now, he seems like he has a lot invested into his super heavies, and that's the one that you're going to have out in the battlefield. The ones that you want garrisoned are usually units that are going to be providing a lot of firepower. And what units provide a lot of firepower? And since when they're garrisoned, you don't have to worry about their health or their defense, etc. Well, the obvious answer is to have 4 siege. So usually the best defense right now is the one major troop that you're taking up, whether that's the super heavy, the medium, whatever it may be, and then 4 siege. That is going to absolutely wreck face. And look at this. One of my tanks literally lived with nothing left of HP. It was actually insane. So you can tell just by that how much HP they're doing. And as I was healing, I noticed that there was another reinforcements that they got coming in. So I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get even more fight. But you know what, it was completely fine, because this guy is one of those guys that just has 3 and 4 troops in the battlefield at once. So it was so easy to pick apart. Like, look what he's doing. I really don't understand what his idea even was. So everything that he set out, 4 troops got demolished before you can probably get targeted. Like, it was reinforcements, but it was more like free kills for us. I don't know what this guy was thinking. Either way, we pretty much shredded through his line. But as you can tell, like, they also have other people in here. The Werewolfer guy was also in here, and he actually had some pretty decent mediums as well. I don't believe they were as strong as mine, especially just look how fast those got shredded. So I don't believe they were as strong as mine, but still, they were definitely much more formidable than the other troops that we were just going up against. And then, of course, the infantry that's just standing there. If you see infantry like this, especially in their bunker, try to leave them for last, because they're going to sponge a lot of damage, but they don't really do much damage themselves, so you don't have to really worry too much about them. Try to kill off everything in between. And then once everything's taken care of, you can go ahead and take out the infantry. Try to just go around them. But as that was going on, you see Buyan is actually targeting. He's ungarrisoned his troops, sending out one wave, and then sending them back into the garrison. That way they're not getting taken out. But as you can see right there, I'm actually targeting his siege and trying to pick my spots to see if I can take some down. And I believe I was able to actually take a couple of them down right there. So I was very strategic as far as my targeting. And I knew that I needed to stay in between, because if not, everything was going to get taken out. And then look at this. Then I have one of my allies shooting at me. Like, I'm losing all my health just because this guy pulled up on me, which is supposed to be my ally, and he's just straight up just shooting me. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to shoot you. I'm just gonna pull back because maybe he's just not paying attention. And then the other guy starts shooting me, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm your ally, and he keeps coming. And I'm like, look, bro, if I keep shooting at you, I'm gonna take out all your troops. So you need to figure it out. You either need to start paying attention, not just click and leave your screen, because I don't know what was going on there. But anyways, once we figured that out, I was able to go ahead and go back, and then they do it again. He does it again. I'm like, yo. At this point, I felt compelled to be like, does he not know that we're allies? Hello? I'm gonna go ahead and send him an emoji like, bro, what are you doing? So it looks like he finally figured out because he pulled away. But I'm like, you need to figure your stuff out, because I don't want to start losing troops just because you don't know what you're doing. But either way, after we figured all of that out, we went back and we got Verwolfer's base. Go ahead and blew that up. And then this guy just randomly pulled up. See, this is the people that I don't understand. He just pulled up and got taken out in 2 seconds. You need to assess the situation that you're in. Don't just go into a cluster of enemy without an exit plan. Unless you have like lights where you can come in, get a couple shots, and then just run away. That dude, I don't know what he thought he was doing, but he wasn't doing much. But anyway, we started targeting the other bases that came through. That guy left prematurely. He didn't even want to stick around for much. And then I noticed that Buyan, his garrisons were outside, so that means that his base is not going to do much damage. So I started to take a couple of cheap shots in there until he realized, like, okay, I should probably garrison my troops back in here. And then finally, when he got those garrisons and those siege back in his base, he started doing some massive damage. Look at that. Whew! Oh boy, yeah. That was the whole issue. Is that as soon as those garrisons started targeting your troops, they were pretty much gone. Look at that. Look at that. He completely took out those super heavies down there. So especially he must have had a really strong anti-tank gun, because though they were doing so much damage, and that's really where the whole issue was. But honestly, even if an opponent is that strong, at the end of the day, all you really need to do is just beat them in numbers. Now look at this. Look at this. This is essentially 2-3 versus 1, and this is why you want to focus on one specific troop instead of bringing all 5, because look how lopsided these battles were. Yes, those are heavies, and heavies counter medium, but when they're as weak and not as invested as my mediums, I barely even felt them. Like, look at my HP bar. My HP bar hasn't even moved. And then we got a super heavy that comes up, and look, my HP is still literally like I didn't even fight two other guys. So because of that, even though he ungarrisoned Buyan and started targeting me, I was able to finish off the super heavies and then pull away in time before one of those died. Which I got super lucky there, because look at that, the sliver of health. And then before I knew it, we had about 8 or 9 guys that were actually taking fire. And when an opponent is like this, where he does a lot of damage, sometimes you're just gonna have to go ahead and sacrifice some of your troops and sacrifice some of your health. That way more people can get some shots in, because now, since we have more dedicated fire, we were able to actually start doing a lot of damage. And then also another big part is when you're out in the battlefield and you're trying to focus down a target, even if they get reinforcements and they start shooting at you and you get them to low health and they run away, do not chase them, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to chase. They want to get people away from your main target, and then all of a sudden you're going to be scattered and easier to take over. So yeah, don't chase if you're targeting somebody. Now if you're just in the open field and not really targeting anything specific, then fine, chase if you want. But yeah, after I saw that, I noticed that Buyan actually went ahead and left. He teleported out, so I guess he didn't want to get burnt. But a couple of minutes later, we found his base and everybody converged, and it's pretty much going to be the same end result. He said that he didn't flee, that he tactically retreated, which is just a fancier word of saying flee, but hey, you gotta use the fancy word. But yeah, it was very, very fun. And like I said, this was like over 2 hours. I even have more footage of this. So if you want to see some more, let me know. Appreciate you guys for watching, and until later.